Yes, we're in another location with a very, very deep history, particularly over the last few hundred years. I'm back in Przemysl, in case you hadn't recognized the buildings, the architecture. But then I wouldn't blame you necessarily, because the architecture is so much replicated throughout the old Habsburg Empire, the old Austro-Hungarian Empire. The architecture can be seen in cities such as this, throughout Poland and throughout Central, even Southern Europe. We have a memorial here, which is a little bit different. It remembers those Polish soldiers who, in theory, were going to be given protection when they agreed to hand over their weapons to the Russian forces back during the Second World War, and subsequently even into the mid-50s, it seems. First we have Katyn in 1940. I won't go into the potted history because I don't know it, frankly, but I'm aware that Polish officers were told, basically, lay down your arms, you won't be harmed. We're on the same side as you. You can become communists. And they were murdered. Perhaps some were deported, because over to the right of the memorial we see here memories of places in Russia where it appears Polish people, including Polish soldiers, but the Polish population as a whole. If somebody determined in the Russian Communist Empire that they were undesirable people to have around, they ended up being deported to Archangельsk, Irkutsk, Molotov, Novosibirsk, Tyumen, Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Uzbekistan, Tomsk. And once again, we've seen this before in some of the memorials we visited along the way, right the way down through the Baltics, into Poland and into Ukraine. Some people were returned. Maybe 20 years later they were permitted to return. Others disappeared. Others died of poor conditions they were held in. Others simply suffered the fate of a bullet in the head. So yes, while sometimes when the idea of we have a mutual enemy makes us friends, well, that doesn't always hold true. So even though Poland and Russia had a mutual enemy in the extremist, far-right, nationalist German would-be empire, the Third Reich of the 1930s and 40s, we know it wasn't as cut and dried as maybe some people would like to think. Let's walk on, shall we? If we can, because I'm revisiting Przemysl primarily because I really felt I ought to, given that I've not undervalued it. I always knew from the first time I visited that it was worth staying some while to explore a little deeper. But circumstances have always seen me passing through the town because it is so close to the border with Ukraine, and it's just that passing through point. Other cities in other parts of the world have been a little bit like that for myself, and I'm sure you know the feeling in your own experience of travels. Auckland and even Wellington in New Zealand, for example, halfway around the world, they can be places you go north through, south through, back through, because you're traveling around, and that's just the way the path takes you sometimes. But I'm here for a few days. I've checked into the very nice little Przemysl hostel, youth hostel, which isn't overly busy, I'm grateful for. Very helpful, down-to-earth, hard-working cleaning lady in the establishment, because often there's no one else around, and often she isn't around, to be fair. Once she's done her work, she obviously leaves the hostel, but there's no one on site 24/7 or anything like that. You are sent codes in advance so that you can gain access in the late afternoon to get into your hostel and into your room. And the checkout is 10 o'clock in the morning, and usually it's only the cleaning lady that you're likely to see at that time. But she's been very helpful, because I had a situation where I wanted to book 5 days here, 5 nights I should say. I was trying online to do that using the booking.com website, and I was just finding that, okay, there's no room that I can see that is available for those 5 straight nights, and I've ended up spending the first 2 nights in a twin room, which isn't as nice as the ensuite single room, which I've managed to snag for the last 3 nights. I mean, the very basic twin room with shower and toilet on the corridor, practically right outside your door. It isn't the worst place to stay, and for $16 US a night for single occupancy, it's a good price, I feel, certainly. When you look at the dorm prices that have become ridiculous in some parts of Europe, then I think I got myself a good deal, if indeed I haven't even got a bargain. Yes, I think we know I have actually got a bargain, haven't I? The cheap guy has saved money again. Well, Przemysl is waiting. What's your reason for not visiting? Maybe your football team is going to be playing at here, the Polonia Stadium, against the Przemysl locals. If not, why not organise a match? And that gives yourself a good reason to come over and bring a good few people, book out the hostel. Don't do it when I want to stay here in that hostel, will you? But when the hostel will otherwise be empty, low season, organise a football match with your local team and Przemysl, and you'll be playing over there in that stadium. And you'll have some nice accommodation in a very pretty town. For my part, as I'm not interested in the football aspect of the town, I'm going to be looking at the possibility of accessing some higher ground along this road. Somewhere off to the left, I'm hoping I might be able to find a track which will take me up there somewhere, and that will give me what I'm thinking is going to be a very appealing panoramic view over Przemysl and the river, maybe the old town, some of the fine buildings, and Przemysl has plenty of them. It's amazing, really. When you think of how much was lost during the damage of the Second World War in particular, it's astonishing that the amount of attractive buildings are noticeable here. And even some weird, quirky, what on earth is going on there? Sort of concrete ski chalet building. I actually quite like it, believe it or not. May sound strange coming from me, but I rather like that building. It's a one-off from my point of view, not seen anything like that. And it's not right slap bang in the middle of a whole host of fine Renaissance buildings, for example, in an old town somewhere. Then it would be an eyesore. But I can't explain it in a weird futuristic way, which, yeah, a vision of the future which never actually happened. It's an interesting looking building, I think. Okay, better stay focused because I don't want to miss the possibility of a potential turn. And not a turn for the worst, but a turn for the better. The worst that can happen is I can't find a path which would take me uphill. Therefore, I just have to go back and try and skirt round the old town a little more snugly and access the higher ground that way.